himself, gonna be eating a shock dart, but he's able to makes it.
Win anything. Sam, defend your team, because they haven't won.
Strap yourselves in, it's another 1 hour episode.
Oh yeah.
Spike defused.
Thank you very much for making it here. I know the schedule was difficult for you, but thank you so much for coming in. Nice shirt you're wearing there.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Okay, I will go ahead and introduce you. For anyone who's not aware, for anyone who's in this who wasn't just here to see mCe, this is mCe Elmore. He was, up until the beginning of last week, the head coach of Gen.G. He has an extensive background coaching, competing, generally being involved in CS in the North American scene. He is a very smart dude, and we're very happy to have you here to talk to us.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
So let's get into it. Let's just get into the interview. There's a lot that we want to know. Obviously, really appreciate you coming on to do this interview. So let's just get into the meat of it, which is you've just been released as the head coach of Gen.G. Obviously, that is very fresh. But what was your read on the team? I know you weren't expecting. My understanding is that you weren't expecting to be released. What was your read on the team? Were you aware that this is a possibility? What was going on?
I wasn't really. I kind of got caught off guard by it. Obviously, when you don't win or whatever, there's always pressure and things like that. That is part of being a competitor or in a professional setting. But I wasn't really aware of it. I had kind of laid a groundwork of what I thought needed to be done in order to make the team competitive, take it to the next level, and I thought we were pretty much in agreement on that. But heading into the tournament and whatever, I thought we were in a really good spot in terms of our practice had been doing really, really well. We had a player slumping a little bit and was struggling a bit, but I guess I just misplaced faith in one of the guys that we ended up obviously losing to TSM, and we choked that match. There's no way around it, pretty hard. And then we went up against Rise Nation, and we just flat out didn't show up to play that day. Like, first map, they just blew us out of the water. They're a big time momentum team. And, midway through the second map, I took a timeout and just started basically yelling at people that I was like, guys, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but, if we want to do anything and all you guys want to keep playing on this team and for this org, you need to, open your fucking games right now. And we started to make the comeback. Unfortunately lost, 2 back-to-back clutches down the stretch. That was, heartbreaking, and we got knocked out. And, that's it at that point. The first time around we played Sentinels and Envy, which are better teams than we were. We can compete with them, obviously, and we showed it, but, those are matches that you don't always expect to win, you hope to win. And then we just were a disappointment. Players didn't show up and we choked. So.
That's a very frank assessment. Thanks. But I guess diving into that a little bit more, right? The specific VCT run, that TSM game must have been a heartbreaker. Second map was what, overtime?
It was, I believe, we had the lead. We won the pistol. What was it? I forget the half, but we had a lead. We got eco'd. After we went pistol, we won that round. We closed the game 13-5, 13-6, 13-7, somewhere in there. But, whether, our pathing was bad or what happened, we got outshot. We lose that eco, let them back in the game. And, of course, against any of these teams, you're only allowed to make so many mistakes, and we made too many.
All right. So going through that as well, going back to the sort of the start of your time at Gen.G, you started Gen.G right at the beginning of February. So you've kind of had a 6-month run with the team, half a year with the team. Starting about the beginning of the team, I know when you came in, there was a lot that you were really excited about, getting involved in Valorant. Obviously, you were coming over from CS, where you had a background coaching the Chaos team that we were just talking about with the Cloud9 news. This team had existed, though, pretty much since the beginning of Valorant, right? They'd been competing as the French Canadians with the majority of the team. They signed to Gen.G as part of that core, and then that core was together for a long time. So I guess one of my questions is it challenging coming in when you're supposed to be the head coach, when you are the head coach, and you're taking on the leadership in a team that's sort of been together that long? Is that a particular challenge?
I came in at a really weird time because, Effie's was gone. They had just got PL1 a couple months before, and they brought in Kusta and Sean, obviously. So that core was kind of broken up a little bit by the time I came in, so I didn't really get that feel. We had Danny, Huen, we had Mikhail, and we had Gen.G were the guys that were left. And attitude-wise and everything, those guys were great. The team didn't really feel like a team at that time, though. It's kind of hard to explain, but it just didn't feel like a team atmosphere for whatever reason. People weren't joking with each other, and I came from chaos, and we were absolute fucking clowns all the time. Like, if you've watched our comm videos and I've come from teams even dating back to Soar and Rogue and whatever that always felt like friends on those teams a lot of the time. So coming into Gen.G at the start was a lot different for me. That at times it felt like people weren't even having fun. It was just a really weird situation. And when I came in at the beginning, they were not good. They didn't look good when I first came in. They'd been struggling with a lot of stuff, and we had a long road ahead of us from the start.
Now, how did you sort of approach that? Right, if there's not that team atmosphere, is that a priority to sort of create a sense of camaraderie outside of the server?
It was such an odd, they didn't not like each other, but we'd be there and we'd be 5 minutes before we were supposed to be back for like a practice or something, and just nobody's saying anything, nobody's talking. They would all just be sitting there. I know they're there, they're watching YouTube videos or whatever, but it was just really bizarre. Obviously the three French Canadians, best friends, and Kusta, it's kind of hard to get a read on a lot of the time. And then Sean is just Sean's sense of humor is fantastic, but it's really dry and stuff like that. But as far as the team, you try to get them talking or whatnot, but I'm not the best at, your motivation or your emotions that's I'm pretty well known to be, a guy that gets upset and yells at people to get things done. But I felt like more and more we started to get that way. But it was such an odd, preposition, and we had so much we needed to get put in place in terms of the groundwork, in my opinion, that was what I was focused on at the very beginning. Was we need to be able to win games. We need to be able to do these things right off the bat. So we had a lot of work we had to start on at the beginning.
I mean, talking about that work as well that was in the server, I remember talking to you at the time, and a huge focus for you, even after you guys started winning some of those early events and started placing much better. I remember congratulating you after winning, you being like, oh yeah, we were still bad, we need to be better. And it seemed like a huge amount of the focus for you was just bringing what I would consider FPS fundamentals in terms of spacing, trading, running in set pieces, but also knowing how to default and things like that. Was that accurate? Do you it felt like you really had to build a strat book from the ground up as a coach?
Not entirely fair.
Okay.
They had a lot of stuff in place that was good. Obviously those guys have been a team since beta. Literally the game came out, those guys switched. They were known for being, innovative, and doing a lot of things before, people did things. So they had a lot of good set pieces, that, they did a good job. They had good things, but they had switched to somebody besides GMD calling, when I came in, and it wasn't working. It was really bad. And the GM actually and I, the first couple of days when I sat in, were just talking back and forth, not talking to the team as much. And he was just like, Matt, I swear to God, they're not they're better than this. They're not usually this bad, whatever. Because that first week was really rough. And you can ask any of the guys on the team or the GM, and they will be like, yeah, it was bad. So they had good pieces. Obviously, I'm known as being, a guy that has good set pieces. From CS, we were, excellent on that at Soar. Being an innovative person in terms of how to play maps differently and things like that, that even if it's not right, I thought it was, so why not try it? And that was what was exciting for me about Valorant and the Gen.G guys is like, basically I got to do a lot of the things I wanted to do that I was like, guys, I think this can be sick. Let's try to do it. And then, we did those things. We started innovating on certain maps on Icebox. We were one of the first teams that really worked mid to CT spawn and things like that on different splits. And we had some really neat stuff throughout, the time being there. But they had good stuff put in place. It was just picking and choosing pieces of those to put our best foot forward and kind of updating those things or whatnot. So
now the biggest individual achievement for this roster really was the 3rd place finish at the Stage 1 Masters. That was a pretty huge finish. That was a really great achievement pretty early on in the tenure. What was your feeling about the roster at that point?
I identified very early that we had a decent peak and really bad floors. That it's like we had players like Danny H1 and Mikhail, GMD, Sean. That these guys' peak is in it's good, but if we weren't playing at the peak, then obviously that's where you see the upsets or things like that. Like if somebody's not having a great game, are we really a good team? And going into that Masters, everything just kind of clicked at the right time. People were doing well, the team was doing well. We went on a little run, and we were in a good spot, but I felt like we overperformed for that tournament. I think we could have beat a lot of the teams we beat again, and I truly to this day think that if we had got another day before we had to play FaZe and didn't have to go through the BO3 like from hell against Envy that went the distance, that we could have come into that match and shown a lot better than what we did. But that's part of the game. We had people that basically like we go from that match, they go eat a big meal, and then they just like hard crash into the FaZe game. And FaZe has always been one of those teams that has beat those guys before. But I was really confident moving into that match, and I think the guys were too. Our practice against those guys was much better than when we had started. But it was unfortunate. They came out, they got to watch what we had just done. They're arguably the better team as well. I'm not going to take away Corey and Baby Bay are phenomenal. Those guys are so good. And Marved, obviously. And then Raucus and Zachary are just overlooked all the time. Like those guys are so solid. They do their jobs and they never get anything. So this is my shout out to them because they are, excellent pieces of that team. But, we lose there, we come in, and I felt like really to progress the team at that point, we needed to do some role changes to move on from there. So we experimented. We put Kusta on Jet because obviously his CS background with hopping, I'd be, fucking stupid not to try it. Like the kid was so talented. I played against him coming up. I saw him play. He went to like he has always been this phenomenal player. So we did that. We moved Mikhail to Cypher because he was really confident on it or comfortable on it because he used to be a big time Cypher in the early days of the game. And Kusta hated playing Sentinel. I think Kusta was one of the better Sentinels in NA, but he was miserable on it. Made the team atmosphere a little bit bad as well because of that. So I needed to get him off that role. And we started playing for a bit afterwards, and our floor was much better. When we lost, we were only losing 14-10, 12-12, somewhere in that area. And but we weren't as good as our peaks. And so it came down to a point where Danny was like, is this really our best foot forward to go to Iceland? And I said, I wasn't confident enough in that. We didn't have enough time, or people weren't performing well. I think that would have been the best role wise for our roster going forward, but we had to switch back because individuals felt like they were having more success on other agents. And then we went into that tournament. We absolutely ran into the perfect storm that I think we lost to TSM again, fucking shocker, and Cloud9 Blue. And Cloud9 Blue was the perfect storm of stuff. I mean, they had played 16 matches in a row and didn't have a single VOD, including winning an NSG event because they had the game changers going on. So we're coming into that match. They just switched rosters, Leafs on the team, all these things that we have no fucking idea what's going to happen. And it's so obnoxious to me because every game we play is casted, but somehow Cloud9 gets to play 16 matches in a row and doesn't have a single fucking VOD on them of anything they're doing. And of course, they came in and they beat us, and they looked really good in the Iceland match, and they did really well. Like Cloud9's a good team, you know. It happens. Sometimes you lose, and from there we had to make the change because I really felt like we had to make changes in order to be competitive.
Now, first of all, shout out Riot. Please make a demo viewer. Please, 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 please.
I don't even
that
care
would be
about
so
that.
good.
Just the bias of, I feel like Cloud9 paid people off to not be on stream, man. It's
Okay, but
unbelievable.
you should see it this way. You should see it this way. Gen.G, that's gonna be a good match. We'll stream that. Cloud9.
We weren't even playing. That's the problem. All the better teams weren't playing. We had already
Yeah.
qualified.
Yeah.
So all these teams are going through. There's not a Gen.G. There's not an X-Set. There's not 100 Thieves, Envy. I can keep going on and on and on. That it's like, are we going to, cast Brimstone Gaming or Cloud9? And they're like, oh, Cloud, nah. Like, whatever. So it almost felt like Cloud9 literally paid them off. And shout out Brimstone Gaming. They broke up, hurt my heart. Those guys are one of the favorites. But yeah, I mean, it was just the perfect storm coming into it. So.
All right, well, let's talk about the move that was made, right? When is benched, longtime member, obviously since the founding, and then Nature was brought in as his replacement, and that I found interesting. So talk to us about first of all about what led to Huynh being the player who went, and then also what you saw in Nature, bringing Nature into the team.
I think you saw people start to doubt Jet's abilities and having a one-trick Jet around that time. That we needed somebody. Danny's biggest problem is his consistency. Phenomenal teammate, really good player. And if we wanted to be a top 10 team the whole time, I don't think I have to make that move. But it was brought to me that Gen.G wanted to be a top 3 team or a top team, and I felt like with his inconsistencies and everything like that, like unfortunately, like I couldn't keep Danny on the team. I needed somebody that was consistently better. I still wanted to move Kusta to Jet because I felt like even in the practice leading up to it, Kusta's opping on the defensive side was phenomenal. It was just his attack side that he wasn't comfortable with, and I felt like that was our best chance moving forward because obviously there is some CS bias coming into that, where you look at some of these players and the only guy on our team that had any success in CS outside of Kusta was GMD when we worked together on Rogue, early French Canadians when they qualified for the global challenge, things like that. But Danny was always known in CS a bit for being inconsistent as well. One of the best scout players in CSGO. So it translated well when he started playing Jet, and his Jet was good. But I couldn't justify having a player like that wasn't going to perform every single match on a champion like Jet, that if you don't perform or use the character to its max, you're really not getting anything effective out of it. So we went into it. Originally, we were going to kind of look for Jets or duelists, but then our wish list changed to a Sentinel and an IGL. And, the guys that came up was Def. We played very, very well with Def, but we weren't winning scrims as much. And before you get into scrim bucks, whatever, blah, 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 it was more of a, from the outside looking in, we played better with an individual and we played good with both. But oh my God, Nature was the best player on the fucking planet when we first tried him out. This kid, and he will be a special player coming out. I truly believe that. That this guy, ask any of the guys on our team or any of the people that were scrimming us, he was dropping 30 to 40 day in and day out for the full week we tried him out. And then the conversation came up, like, should we try him out again, should we play with Def again, et cetera, because we had planned to play with Def again. And everyone's comment was, there's no way this kid is this good. And so the GM, Andrew, and I were like, well, if that's our feeling, let's play with him another week. And if he does it again, then you can't be like, oh, he's just, because like everyone's feeling, and Andrew and I both understood. We're like, there's no way this kid can do this every single time, the whole time. Just because like I believe in him to drop like 30 a game or something. But I mean, it was fucking crazy. It was incredible. So we played with him again that week, did the same thing, you know, maybe not as hot, but still, and our results were really, really good. And so it came down to it. And I felt like if we picked Def up, we needed to make a change for mCe to grab another Sova player with more firepower, or we could pick Nature up and we'd be okay. Because mCe improved day in and day out. The whole time I was there, he was playing really, really well for us. And I wasn't ready to give up on Mike yet as a player. But that was the next person in my head that I was like, he may not be good enough to compete for that top 3 spot. Like, we may have to find somebody else. But he did nothing for me to doubt him enough to make that change, even though it got brought up. That I was like, I'm gonna believe in this kid. And like, he just kept getting better and better. And unfortunately, at the end, it didn't work out. He kind of, you know, let me down a bit, but I made the right choice then. I'll say it now, even though I got fired and I'm salty about it, and that's part of it, but I made the right choice and I can live with that. So.
Okay. Let's talk about the roster going forward, right? Obviously, you've talked about, you know, some of the things you were thinking about, potential changes that could come through, Nature being brought in, Nature being a potential future star. What do you think the biggest challenges are in the next step for this team? Like, obviously, you're not part of it anymore. What do you think their next challenges are going to be?
Mental. I think mental is always such a big part of it, that we at the end struggle to bring our confidence and things like that from practice into matches. That, you know, in practice leading up the whole time, we were really good. If the meta didn't change, I was confident like we would be at Berlin. Before the meta change, we were actually just fucking incredible. And when the meta changed, there was kind of the shift in the team that like people were kind of disappointed because we were so good in practices before. So we had to kind of go back to the drawing board. We went to California, we boot camped, we had laid up all these things, and then Riot was like, ha, fucking psych. And we had to, you know, start over on some different things. We had to change agent compositions because the utility change didn't make sense to us anymore to play certain characters and things. We were playing a lot of Breach, and our Breach was really good because GMD is a monster. And, you know, we had to go away from all of that and basically start over. And it took us a little while, and we got back, and I felt like we were really in a groove, like I said. But it's just the mental thing, and whether that was part of me, the pressure that was put on me, and my attitude on things, or, you know, just guys being nervous. I'm not sure what it was, but just every now and then people, you know, would go missing in matches, and it wasn't even just one person all the time. It was, you know, everybody had their moments that, you know, there were times like the Rise game and even the Envy game when we lost that I felt like people didn't show up to play. Like, it was just such a weird feeling as compared to what I knew the guys were capable of, that it was incredibly frustrating. But I think they have to solve that first and foremost. I think they have to make player moves as well to truly compete, and that's what I thought our next move was going to be. And then all of a sudden I got a meeting and they're like, oh, never mind, like, bye, basically. So that, you know, it is frustrating to say the least. I do not think I was the biggest issue on that team. I think I should have been given more time to do certain things, because anybody that was watching what I watched would have been confident in what we were doing, honestly. And you know, just it didn't work out, and that's unfortunate. So.
Well,
Mike,
speaking
if I
about,
may.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just talking about like cutting and getting cut and whatever. So I'm the kind of person who struggles to upset anyone ever. So how do you kind of like, does it often happen where you cut someone and the relationship goes sour? Like, how do you approach that conversation? How do you say to them, you're good, you're just not good enough, and maintain good relations?
The biggest thing was, because the only player we cut was Huen or Danny, and I really liked Danny. Just they cut him, and it was like, it was my decision, obviously, but, you know, I didn't handle the cutting, and I told our GM, I was like, if possible, and Danny's okay with it, I would really like to talk to Danny about, you know, why this happened, et cetera, et cetera. So I had that meeting with Danny that I didn't have to do, and I basically laid it out for him. And it was really hard because, you know, obviously he's upset, and it's probably easier to just cut somebody and be done with it. But I was raised differently, and like I think that's bullshit. To be honest, like I've done it in the past, and I regret things I've handled in the past. But I wanted Danny to know that like he's a good player. I knew he was going to find success in other areas. Just I don't think he was a top level player, and I hope he proves me wrong and he gets to that point. But at the end of the day, it's a business. I mean, it's a job. You have to handle it. Like I know it when Andrew cut me, I could tell he was going to cut me by the first sentence he said because his voice was, you know, shaky or not confident. I just told him, I was like, Andrew, listen, like we're good. Like you don't have to, like we're done. Like I'm gonna make this easy for you or whatever. But it at the end of the day, it is a business. Like you have to do these things, and whether I like it or not, part of the job of being a coach and the hardest part, in my opinion, is I have to befriend people over and over and over again. I have to put my faith in them, believe in them, you know, help them progress, and then I have to be that person that it's like you're not good enough, and that is by far the shittiest part of the job, and it takes a toll on your mental because you know I will never not put faith in certain players that I believe in, and although it cost me in the end this time, like I still believe I made the right choice to put my faith in people that you know ultimately I shouldn't have, but that's part of it. Like it it sucks, but you have to be a leader in terms of a lot of things. And if I'm going to cut somebody, I'm going to do it, you know, the way that should be done, where I'm going to be enough of a man to talk to the person. And if they have questions, I want to answer them, et cetera, et cetera. So like, it sucks and it's never easy, especially, you know, most of the time there's a lot of emotions and stuff involved. So you kind of have to talk a guy down off a cliff of basically when it happens that it's like, I will always, you know, help those people if I can. But you know, it's just, it's tough. There's no easy way around it in terms of cutting people or anything like that in this segment. But I try to be a person first and coach second. So
Yeah, I mean, shout outs to Papa mCe, who I'm pretty sure is in Twitch chat right now for the race different comment. Good job there, Papa mCe. And Mr. Steve Elmore, big fan. So now here's the question that obviously a lot of us are curious about. I know we've chatted a little bit about it. Do you at this point have any idea what your next step is in the scene?
I have no idea what my next step is. I think honestly there's interesting things in the works, but as of right now it's like I'm trying to, you know, focus on myself and doing things in my actual life that, you know, it's been nice having a life the last 2 weeks. You forget how much time you put into, you know, work and things like that, that it's been great, you know, getting to hang out with people or, you know, go do stuff and have multiple days in a row to myself. So that's been nice. Obviously I want to get back into it. I'm not done. Like I truly believe no matter who you are, I can make you better. And that has always been my goal. Like in the
Can you
end,
coach
I don't
me out of
care.
bronze?
Probably, hopefully. I mean, I think the biggest thing is you can't ever focus on winning as a coach, and I know that sounds weird, but you have to focus on getting better. And I truly believe that because if you improve, you will win eventually. Or, you know, not everyone can be the best in the world, and I'm not saying that Gen.G guys can't, but you know, you have to accept that, but try to move past it. You can be a bad player and achieve great things. I mean, fucking look at my whole career. But I would rather people with a C level talent end up in a B level than people with an A level talent ended up in a C level. That's just unacceptable.
So we might have just missed the beginning of that question. Sam, what was the question that you asked?
My question about like cutting people?
Oh, okay, never mind. That was we were talking about where you would wind up then, I think was where we
Yes,
were
I
at when the
believe
internet
so.
dipped
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
I was a little bit
that was
confused
the
by it.
question.
I will ask the one slightly more direct question. Obviously, you're wearing a certain shirt right now. A lot of your former team members have joined together in a certain team right now. 3 of them rebuilding a roster that I know when you all started to make the transition to Valorant, you wanted to get an org to pick the 5 up, or at least as many as were
4.
willing to
Yeah.
make the switch. What was it? Marky wasn't coming over.
No, Leaf had already signed to Cloud9 at the time.
Right. Okay, so you're trying to get someone to pick up the
Groundwork.
4. No org bit on that because orgs are dumb. But yeah, that's right. I'm calling out every GM here. But the shards are being reborn, man. It's coming together. Do you want to? Is that a
Infinity
possibility?
Gauntlet.
Probably not. Fuck Vanity. Shit player. So.
Oh wow.
He is in chat, so that's perfect. There's the sound.
I-
Flip it.
They have a really good coaching staff already, honestly. That you have James and Autumn, and if anything ever came up, I would, take a place at one of those guys' side as an assistant coach in a heartbeat, because I believe in both those guys. Obviously, they do a lot of work, and like if something ever came up and Cloud9 was like, "Yo, Matt, we're gonna send you a shirt to sit on a stream and potentially join our team," would I do it? Absolutely. But that's yet to be seen. So we just have to wait to see what happens.
All right, Jack, you heard it here. Sign this man. And everyone else is looking for something. So let's talk about a little bit more of an esoteric thing. I know when we first started getting involved in coaching in Valorant, the early days of Gen.G, one of the things that you were really excited about was that you really felt like people were using utility wrong in your view, like that there were other applications for utilities and things that people just hadn't started trying yet, and to your eyes there were a lot of things that could be done to change up. I know Sova in particular, just the use of different pieces of utility there was something that you messed around with early on. So I guess my question is, how do you feel about it now? Do you think that that sort of agent kits are being maximized? Do you think that we're going to have things continue to be changed around?
I think it is become drastically better from when I first started, in terms of people are thinking through flashes more or setups. You're starting to see sentinels roam more back and forth across the map. You're seeing these triple initiator comps, or you saw the double smokes come out for a lot of stuff for a while, that I think people are starting to use utility much better. You've got these Sova guys that are coming up, like Derek and Levi and all these guys that were, Odin abusers and scum of the earth. Fix the walls on Ascent. But, these guys
The
have such
reverb
unique
on that.
takes. And even the TSM Academy, as you'll call them now, the way those guys played, was different from a lot of other teams. The way they utilize Sage and Astra, and they're doing really well, a lot of these teams, and I think they're pushing the top teams more and more to become better with utility. And you saw V1 came up and they pretty much pioneered the post plant meta. Like, that wasn't ever done, that was available, and you start to see these guys do things. So yeah, I think utility is definitely a lot better than what it was when I first got here, and I'm happy to see the game progress the way it has, and hopefully it keeps progressing. And people are less stubborn about agents they play or the characters they pick, because one of the best metas in the game we may not even be aware of. I mean, Europe didn't play Astra. Like,
yeah, it's that aspect is pretty wild. And then I think, Sam, you had some thank you so much for indulging my interviewer brain here, and being patient with me here, Sam, but I think you got a couple questions here on the tail end.
Yeah, just at about 10 minutes left though, so I'm happy to just kind of skip them because we've still got a
I guess we
lot to
should.
get
I guess
through.
we should.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna blitz through the rest of this broadcast. Thank you. This interview's been great. We'll talk about some other stuff and get Matt's opinions on those as well. But I guess we should just blow through the other topics here.